This is episode 59 of Standing Out. Standing Out is a remarkable interview style podcast with the intention to highlight women and men making outstanding contributions in their field. This podcast is generously sponsored by Think Global. Think Global is a business advisory firm working with women entrepreneurs around the globe to scale their businesses to the next level. Today, I'd like to welcome Virag Reti. Virag is a Hungarian engineer and entrepreneur who has been through 2 accelerator programs with her startup Co in Memphis and MergeLane in Boulder. She and her co-founder have been working on transportation-related tech solutions since the beginning, but went through a few iterations and pivots along the way. Currently, they are focusing on TeamRide, a carpooling app for corporations to help colleagues spend less on gas and less time alone in the car while reducing environmental impact. Virag, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's start with, how did you get started in the tech transportation space?
I think the whole thing started around the time I was finishing up with the university and working on my bachelor degree, which is in molecular bionics engineering. And I really loved the engineering part, but I had a hard time with the biology-related classes.
Okay.
Also lab work. It's mostly the lab work I didn't really enjoy. And with my boyfriend, or back then boyfriend, who became my co-founder along the way, we felt that we should do something, some startup, invent something, make something great, build something and help the world. And then we started reading about startups, how business is done, because in the engineering school, there is very little you learn about business. So we watched videos, listened to podcasts like this one, read ebooks and articles, and then we had a long list of ideas of things how we want to change the world and make it a better place, of course, like everyone else.
Right.
And then there was this one thing that stood out and we started working on, which was a ride-sharing solution around shopping centers and malls, because it's a very typical scenario in our lives and just in our friend groups and this age segment, that I take a public transport bus to IKEA, buy a bunch of stuff, and then force him to take them home by bus. And he doesn't enjoy it, and I don't enjoy his opinion about it when it's said out loud. So we thought that there were all those people who go there by car, but they don't fill up the entire car with stuff. So we wanted to make shared ride solutions for this arrangement when you go to a place and then you have to come back with a lot of stuff.
Right.
And, this is the idea we started working on back in early 2014. And we got to the first program, the Memphis program, Start Co, which is also, it had a female-focused part, which was called Upstart, but Upstart is a part of Start Co. So Start Co is better Googleable than Upstart.
Okay.
And 2 weeks into the program in April, we figured out that this idea is not working on the US market because everyone has their cars. There is no real public transportation available for these kind of things. Also, people are just so into their cars, they wouldn't really leave them behind when they do shopping. And shopping centers are very far from the main part of the city or the living areas.
Right.
So we had to decide if we pursue a very European idea while just building out our network in Tennessee and not being able to use our new mentors for actual help because it's not that market, or just change the direction slightly and do something different. And then we decided to do something different. We wanted to
that, like when you were in that program and feeling like this idea just isn't going to play in the US market, was that like discouraging to you, or do you feel like that was also empowering, like, hey, this is an opportunity to change? Like on the emotional side, how do you feel about that?
I think it was like that in this order.
Right.
Yeah. Like first it was scary because there was this little thing we started to build and figure out and kind of fall in love with. Yeah. And then it turns out it doesn't really work. Right. You have to do something else, or you have to consider doing something else. And you are not in the good place in the right time. or the right place, right time. So it was hard, but that's why I'm very grateful that we were in that program when we figured this out, because even with this situation, we could turn to our mentors and the men and women, or women and men, who were around us in the program as mentors or just like invited guests. And they guided us through the emotional part of it, the letting go part, and being open to the new opportunities. And this is a good lesson, and we learned it well, because since then we've used it, I think, 3 or 4 more times.
It's constant evolution being an entrepreneur. Yeah. How did you find that accelerator program?
We were searching online and found f6s.com, where all the programs are listed. And then through that site, we were just looking for programs that were good in time and kind of space. We wanted to go to the US because back in 2014, we thought that the European programs are a tiny bit behind with their evolution as accelerators. Since then, they grew a lot, and the European programs are focusing on the the EU market now, and the US programs are in the US market to start with, and then also the whole global thing.
Right.
But we wanted to go to the States for a program, and it was in March, so we wanted to go as soon as possible. So we just started searching and reading through the programs, checking out their websites, filling out their questionnaires, and applying. And then StartCo had the earliest start date. Okay. I think they also had the earliest response dates. And their program was 100 days, not 90, like most of them. They are very cool. We really liked them through the interviews. So when they said that we are accepted, we are super happy, and we went there.
Yeah. So, and you live in Hungary. So did you know, like, have you ever been to Memphis, Tennessee, or have any sort of, knew nothing about it, like just packed up and went? Like, that's amazing.
That's basically it. Actually, Andres, my co-founder, he couldn't come in the first month because he had some stuff to finish up back here. So I packed up my stuff and flew over the ocean on my own as a 22-year-old Eastern European girl flying to the US.
Yeah,
it was kind of like it was a very cool story. I think I wouldn't say interesting, because I know interesting sometimes has a negative feel to it, but it was interesting in a good way.
Right. Right. No, it just sounds like an exciting journey that you've been on.
Yeah.
So with that accelerator, you kind of reframe the business. So where are you now with what the business is? And and there was another stop in the middle with Cabsolutely, right?
Yeah, that was a pretty long one. That's still kind of going, but our energies are not focused there anymore that much. So by the end of that Memphis program, we graduated as Cabsolutely, and Cabsolutely is a three-parted dispatch system for taxi companies, traditional taxi companies, which is aimed to help them combat this whole situation with Uber and Lyft and be on the same playing field, at least. And that has been going for the past 3 years, and it's been going well. But the taxi industry is a very traditional, very slow-moving industry, and we wanted to kind of make sure that we're not only relying on them with our future, because their future is very unstable.
Sure.
And yeah, we thought that we'll do something similar but different enough to make sure that the business is always in a good spot, good place. And we came up with TeamRide. TeamRide uses the same kind of technical concepts we've built and used and iterated and reinvented a lot of times with Cabsolutely, but it's aimed towards these larger corporations who have offices with a couple hundred or more people, and they have to manage the in and out of those people in the beginning of the day and the end of the day. And it's really great because with this change of target market, our new customer base has a willingness and has the budget to spend on solutions like this. TeamRide is basically a carpooling tool. It's an app-based carpooling tool for corporations to help their colleagues with their daily commute, to get to work in a better mood, in a better way, and to go home in a better way. And it has tremendous environmental impact, positive impact.
Oh, it does. Oh my gosh.
It can help the parking and transportation related people just to manage the real estate cost of parking or whatever other expenses they have around parking if they don't have actual real estate for parking. It helps team culture. It builds those very soft connections within people in different departments. You can tie a face to that email signature when you get an email from a totally different department.
Right.
And of course, the green impact, the sustainable impact I mentioned earlier.
I bet it sounds so amazing, and I can really see. I mean, from a cultural standpoint, I think that's great, and a lot of companies would be into that. But that environmental piece, like as you're tracking that, how many miles are being saved and gas saved, and all of this, that has some legs. I love that direction.
Yeah, that's something they can publish and be proud of publicly.
Well, and so many corporations. Are you familiar with B Corps at all? B Corps are it's a certification.
A little bit.
Yeah, it's a certification that indicates that this company or corporation is making strides to be more sustainable or regenerative in their practices. And I think there's maybe 8 categories for every corporation, but it seems like this app would be a fantastic way to help the corporations track that and track their impact on the environment. That's awesome. Yeah. So as an entrepreneur, there are higher days on the roller coaster and there are lower days on the roller coaster. And I love that you share that you have been through so many iterations with this, and the momentum you have now has come from those iterations. And I think that's really inspiring. What do you do for yourself on the lower days to help yourself stay engaged and involved and focused on what's next?
I think a little bit of distraction helps a lot on the lower days, because I tend to just bounce a lot on one topic and not being able to move forward, just being in one place and being stuck. Yeah. And sometimes I need some outside help to get out of that spot. The outside help can come from my co-founder, which is pretty handy because we live together. So that's really awesome. Sometimes I call some of our mentors or I talk to our board members. That can help a lot just to refocus and then get out of that stuck position. What helped a lot just to maintain the ability of getting out of that situation is regular exercise. For me, it's the gym and just lifting weights with the guys, because it's easier than going to a girly class on my own. And I also want to be stronger, not just thinner.
Yeah.
I think it's important to pay attention to your diet and make sure that you are filling up yourself with good things, not just garbage. Yeah. Because that's the body that works for you, and your brain needs brain food. Right? I listened on those biology-related classes. I just didn't enjoy them that much.
Right. But there's some good info that comes from them.
Yeah.
What would you say? So you've been through 2 accelerator programs. Do you plan to go through a third?
I don't think so, because we also have to manage our cap table.
Yeah.
And there is not really more room for another accelerator. Okay. And I think we grew out of that stage of needing an accelerator. We already have those 2 giant resources, the networks around these 2. So if there is something an accelerator can help with, we have 2 accelerators in the family.
Right. No, I totally get that. So what, as a startup, what would you say, and kind of as we wrap up, I'm just thinking, for those companies that haven't gotten more to that growth stage and they're still not clear of their exact direction, but yet they're a startup, what do you think the biggest benefits of accelerators are for them?
I think it helps them to learn the right ways of conducting experiments and interviews and talking to their customers. What I've seen in the 2 accelerators we went through, a lot of times it's just like talk to your customers, talk to your customers, talk to your customers, because you tend to be obsessed with your idea, with your tech, with your thing, but you don't let it go outside of you. And this way you would be the bubble around you and your co-founders and your inner circle. But you have to put it out there and talk to the people who should be paying for it and figure out if they're willing to. There are really great books about that. I'm just reading a bunch of books about B2B sales, because we're doing B2B sales.
Yeah.
And there are really great ones. There was a Medium post recently which recommended a couple of them. I can send over the link, but I just can't remember.
Yeah. What books are you reading?
Well, I'm just trying to find my Kindle, but
yeah.
No, they are like B2B sales or sell better or be really awesome at selling. I don't remember the titles. I'm sorry. Okay, I found the article.
Oh.
The article was on thebetterstory.co, and it's everything I wish I'd known before I started demoing software as a service. And the book I'm reading right now is Product Demos That Sell.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Thanks for that tip. I bet a lot of our listeners could certainly use that information. Awesome.
Yeah, and those are not expensive books. It's like $5 on Amazon or something like that.
Okay, awesome. We'll have to check those out. Thank you for that resource. Virag, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.